Hey everyone, and welcome to you, and welcome to We're Healing Tarot. My name is Chan, my pronouns are they, them, and this is an inclusive channel where I'm going to be speaking to a variety of topics. However, please know that will include some topics for queer folks, for people of color, as well as those who practice honest non-monogamy. So like I said, this is an inclusive channel, so you're welcome to be here. Happy to have you. Anyone who's here with love and kindness, you are welcome. And if that is not your frequency, then I am not your reader, and that's okay. All right, so for today, we're gonna move into a wildcard topic. So this is gonna be a wildcard reading. I'm gonna do these once a month. So essentially what happens is I have a deck of like note cards with terms on them, and Spirit tells me, you know, actually before I started this video, I was sitting and meditating and with Spirit and was shuffling through the cards, and then Spirit kind of showed me the cards that were gonna comprise the topic for today for this reading. So it looks like we have a really deep one coming, which I'm excited for. Just keep in mind really quickly before we dive in here, this is a general reading, so it is for the general collective. If you'd like something more specific to you and to yourself, you'll want to check out my website. I do have some openings for some somatic therapy and somatic healing sessions right now, but I also have openings for tarot readings, which is brand new. So feel free to check those out. I have that listed in the description below. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. The theme for today, the primary theme, is going to be chemistry. So that was actually the first card that I pulled out. I didn't really know what that meant. I still don't know what that means. I have it on the card, but Spirit clarified that we're gonna dive into feminism and alchemy. That's the kind of thread with the theme of chemistry. And so I'm really excited to talk about that today. We're gonna do a general reading, and then I'll also have it extended, which I'll talk about at the end. All right, so I have absolutely no idea what Spirit's gonna want to talk about today with this, and I'm pretty excited. Like, I think we're gonna get to go on this journey together and figure it out. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna start pulling some cards here, but we have chemistry, feminism, alchemy. I may shift some of this around as we go. Yeah, Spirit, do you want to go ahead and kick us off with that? Because this is pretty loaded. It seems pretty loaded. All right, yeah. Okay. So let's look at this card. This is the card through. Yep. Perfect. So this is the Four of Swords. Okay, so we see that. That's the Four of Swords. And let me check here. If that came out in reverse. Okay, so I believe it's in reverse, but there's a couple things I need to like read both ways. So the first thing that's coming up, well, a couple of things. So one being, I'm really, obviously, as you're seeing, noticing the hands on this card, the hands and the snake wrapped around. There's something here around the idea of, the phrase that's coming through is my hands are tied. My hands are tied. And that means like there's something that, for lack of a better term, like has kind of already been chosen for you in some way, or at least you feel that that's what's happening, whether that's the case or not. And so there's something here around like being bound to something. For some of you, this could be representative of like marriage. So it could be something where, you know, we're in this together. There is some sort of like actual binding between you. And I'm just thinking of like chemistry bonding, like the bonding of the elements. I mean, I'm going to be honest, chemistry was not my strong subject in school. I mean, I'm a very spiritual person, so and so we're gonna see how, again, this kind of relates, but there's something around like the bonding of elements here, or atoms, or whatever it may be. And so there is some sort of like bonding coming through. I think this is a very specific message, so this is probably just for like one or two of you, but if you are in a either open or, you know, non-monogamous relationship, maybe you have like a couple, maybe you have more than one partner, I think there may be some tension related to maybe a coupling that's happening, whether that's like you entering into partnership with someone who already is married or is already has almost like a primary relationship. Yeah, so I think there's some tension there, or it could be happening like in reverse, where you're part of this connection and like, you know, trying to extend out and, you know, expand your capacity for love with adding maybe a new partner or partner set. And so I think there may be some tension there. That's kind of what I'm catching. So again, that was really, really uber specific. And we'll get into that a bit more. But I think there's some importance around like the chemistry between the dynamic between all of you. That's going to be important here. So again, just take this and apply to your situation. For some of you, again, this is just related to maybe a partner you may have. So that I have a feeling, in a sense, that's what we're going to speak to today. I didn't really understand. Okay, so before I started this reading, I was out on my patio and I noticed one of my roses had like shed all of its petals. So I thought, oh, that's really sweet. Like, I'll just add this to my reading and kind of put it on the table as something really sweet. And I'm getting a sense now that this is going to be very related to romantic is going to be part of it. I do think there's an element of self-love here for those of you who are unpartnered or single. So the hands in this instance represent maybe different parts of you, or trying to find some sort of like balance, almost like these are both your hands, not two separate people. Like, these are both your hands, and you're kind of not able to loosen them right now, or not seeing a way to do that. I think with this card in reverse, like, Spirit is trying to say that this is possible for everyone who's watching this reading. Like, the energy is available to sort of like loosen the grip here, loosen the bonding, or just get a little more distance. There's something around the sword coming through right now, and like being able to create a bit more distance with that. But so it feels hopefully more comfortable or more liberating in a sense, or a lot less, I'm just going to say it because the word's coming through, codependent. Okay. So yeah, there's something related to that. Okay, and Spirit is being really specific here, that they don't want me to read the traditional reading of the Four of Swords. Like, they want me to look only at the card here and the imagery. So, yeah, I'm just getting that sense. There's another piece coming through here. I don't know how this relates, so bear with me. There's like something around How does this relate, Spirit? This is funny. I can tell this reading is gonna be us kind of doing like solving the mystery as we go and putting the pieces together. Like that's what this feels like. But for some reason, this sword is almost coming through as like the sword of Excalibur from like Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table story. So that's what they're showing me right now. They're showing me like you taking this sword and pulling it out of the stone. Okay, so like you are the element of King Arthur here, and you are the only one who can do this for some reason, right? Like other people can come and try and like remove this for you. So this is absolutely a metaphor. If you're not catching that, hopefully you are. This is a metaphor. Like you are the only one who can remove the sword in this binding for yourself. And so I think there's a real emphasis here of like that ability is yours and yours alone. And you have the strength and maybe are building strength to be able to do so. Especially if this is something where maybe you're in a connection that's not as, for some of you, this is coming through now. This is a small portion of you, not everyone, but like the snake is coming through here as something that's not totally healthy. Like the chemistry maybe in this connection is not healthy. And so I think Spirit is trying to say that you are the only one who can remove the sword and cut the binding here. Okay. And so that's why we see that in reverse. And there's almost like, I'm looking at the other swords now. It's almost like these were other like Knights of the Round Table, you know, other maybe people or connections in your life who have either, you know, maybe you felt the same way with those connections. So these could be like past connections of any type. For some of you, it will be like past relationships. And maybe now, you know, this is your fourth one and it's time to kind of pull the proverbial stone from the sword from the stone, right? And take the binding off of whatever's keeping you stuck, repeating some pattern here. So that's a specific message for some of you, for maybe just a couple of you. It doesn't have to be for relationships. This could also be like folks just in general, right? It doesn't have to be you know, totally aligned to the number here, but folks in general who have maybe tried to point this out. I'm catching the point of the swords now, like try to point out something that continues to happen in your relationships or connections, or have pointedly tried to express maybe concern for the way that this bonding has happened. Because for some of you, this is a trauma bond. Like I'm going to say it because Spirit is showing it to me, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Like we all do it. It happens because we're living life in this world. And in a lot of ways, the ways that we've been taught to connect with folks is through trauma, okay? And through wounding. And so I think that's where the feminism part is coming out right now. And my eyes being drawn to that particular note card because I think what we want to do in this reading is talk a little bit more about ways to exist in connection, in, you know, sort of spiritual chemistry with one another that isn't, well, that is healthy and that feels good for everyone involved. Okay. So yeah. And what alchemy actually means in that instance, and the alchemy in connection. Okay. Whew. We're going in. So let me, 1 second here. I'm going to take a sip of my water. See if there's anything else. No, I just think there's a real emphasis on the sword and the stone. Maybe you need to like watch, isn't there like a cartoon or something, or I don't know. There's like, I know plenty of like movies out there, I think that are related to like King Arthur and kind of sword and the stone stuff, but that may be a video or movie you want to rewatch to maybe give you some encouragement, as you're going through this. So I think there's some good energy there for that. Anything else, Spirit? Okay, yeah, there's also a message here that some of you are leaving a situation like this or in the process of leaving, depending on where you are in the timeline. And so I think, yeah, Spirit's just sending a lot of love and encouragement around that process, and know that like it will get better, even if it feels, something about the way the sword's coming through the card right now, even if it feels painful at the moment, like that pain will ease. And once the sort of air has cleared of that energy, then you'll be able to get more clarity and see more of like what wasn't working within that kind of bond you had with that person. And specifically, I'm gonna go a layer deeper here, specifically the ways that you are showing up and what you actually needed that maybe wasn't being met or being represented in the ways that you would have liked in that connection. And that really is looking at like going deeper, going inward, and seeing like where your hands have been tied or where you've been kind of bound to old wounding, that, you know, we want to heal and loosen. Okay. Spirit, do you have anything else on that particular card? No. So there's not anything else here on this card, but there is a note here. We're gonna keep coming back to this like King Arthur Excalibur analogy, because it seems important to this. And yeah, there's some sort of like very queer metaphor in here, which I love too. But okay, so I think we'll leave it at that. All right, Spirit, what do you want to pull next? Okay, they want me to go to the queer deck. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, there's something in this metaphor here. Okay. All right, and they want me to cut the deck, so just give me a moment here. I have to cut it 4 times for the 4 swords. So maybe this is a specific message for someone. Maybe this is like the 4th chance you've given someone, and now it's time to cut the cord. Okay, maybe you've reached your limit at this point, and so I think there's some there's a message coming through around that. Now, the one thing I'll say here, I need to mention it, is around the topic of boundaries. And so this is part of the feminism that's coming through. Boundaries and bonding. I don't know, there's something in the way those words are. Boundaries, bonding, feminism. And so, yeah, I think, you know, when we think about boundaries are a way for you to be in connection with others and also keep the relationship and connection with yourself intact. So boundaries support you in communicating to others the ways that you need to be treated and how you can best be loved. It is also intended to be a way for you to know what is and isn't serving you. So when you set something like a boundary, like saying, hey, like sorry, there's a couple examples coming through. That's why I kind of paused here. I was like, okay, Spirit, we gotta rein in the examples that you want to give here. Yeah, I think there's one coming through around someone showing up for you. So if that looks like, you know, hey, I need you to show up, or, you know, it makes me feel loved and supported when you show up to these things. If, you know, show up for me in this way, however you've been communicating that. And so if, that person continues not to show up or, demonstrates that with their actions, because ultimately that's what we need to look at, then that is indicative there to tell you, like, this person just isn't capable of not only giving you what you need, but potentially, like, giving you what you need to feel loved is what I meant to say. But also, to be able to honor and respect those boundaries that you've expressed, which, like I said, if they're done correctly, there are ways they tell others how to connect with you, like chemistry, how to connect with you in a way that feels loving and that feels good. And so I think that's really important. This is a really small message for a few of you. For some of you, this relationship and connection is family. And so there may be like a family or a family member, and maybe you've tried to set boundaries around, like, here's an example that's coming through, but hey, mom, like, please give me a call or let me know when you're planning on stopping by at my house, my apartment, or something like, please not after these hours, for phone calls or something along those lines. And so if that continues to be, if those boundaries aren't honored, then that's when we kind of create distance in that connection, okay? Because boundaries are only helpful in so far as you are reinforcing them. So if you're not reinforcing them, then they're not really boundaries. That's not what boundaries do, right? But it says to the other person, like, hey, this is how I need to be treated and how I would like to or need to relate to others. And so if you can't honor that, or you can't meet those, meet the kind of asks that I'm putting forward, then that's okay. However, like, I need to take my energy somewhere else where that will be met and where that will be appreciated, okay? And so it's really important here that you're creating space. Like, I'm almost seeing this sword as like too close now. Like, it's like there's no space between these hands, right? They're like enmeshed in a way. And that's why I was talking about sort of that probably unhealthy codependence in a way. Maybe some form of enmeshment in some way. And so, yeah, I really want to go a little deeper here, but I needed to mention, for some reason, Spirit wanted me to like talk a little bit more about boundaries, and that for some of you, like, that may be the call right now. Like, boundaries will help you to kind of turn this into a situation that feels healthier and a connection that feels healthier. Boundaries can also help you determine what your next step may be. So some of you are maybe thinking like, I just don't know what to do with this next. Like, again, maybe do a little research, read a few books. There's some really, really wonderful books out there around like boundaries and how to set them. I think there's literally a book, I've talked about this, I'll probably talk about this like a few times in my readings, but there's one called Set Boundaries and Find Peace, which I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. I can't remember the author, but the author is just brilliant. It's a brilliant book. So it's like Set Boundaries and Find Peace. I think the author's name is it Nedra? I think it's Nedra. So you can just look that up and find that probably pretty quickly on Google. But brilliant book. It'll help show you how to create boundaries, set boundaries, reinforce boundaries, but all in the act of love. And boundaries are important to, like, again, sort of feminism topics. Like, that's what healthy relating looks like. Boundaries serve to make our connections and relationships stronger. So yeah, hopefully, again, that was related to boundaries and bonding, but that needed to come through for whatever reason. Yeah. And so now we have the Lovers in reverse. Yeah, so this is just reinforcing what I was just saying. For some of you, this card in general is just around connection types. It doesn't have to be related to romantic love in any sense, okay? It can be related to connection. For some of you, it is the connection with yourself that maybe needs some more, I'm gonna say attunement, but like attention, maybe, right? Just some more attention. And so, yeah, let's look at this card. Let's go a little deeper on this one because there's a lot coming through with this one. I think not only did it like clarify some of what I just talked about and just is reinforcing what I'm speaking about, but I want to go a layer deeper here because there's a couple things coming through. Yes, for some of you, this is confirmation that, you know, this is a romantic connection that isn't what you deserve. Okay, so I'm just gonna say that that's delivered with a lot of love from Spirit. There's this energy here of like you deserve to be loved and to feel, you know, to have your needs met. Okay, so there's really that energy here. I think there's another message coming through here that like ultimately you're not responsible for anyone else's happiness but your own. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna repeat that again because Spirit is you know, I'm seeing like flashing lights in my eyes right now. Spirit is like, yes, this. You're not responsible for anyone else's happiness but your own. So if you're finding yourself kind of waiting or just sort of like, I want to say holding your breath, I'm almost catching like a shortness of breath right now, of like with bated breath of like, is this going to make this person happy? Are they going to be okay? Are they going to be satisfied? Will they be able to live their lives? Spirit wants you to know that like ultimately we each have our own destiny. We each have our own fate. And I mean that in a very positive way of like, we each have our role to play and we each have, for lack of a better word, like a script, right? For this life that our soul comes in with. And so you are not responsible for anyone else's path but your own. And while, yes, of course, like, you know, we want to operate in love and kindness and with gratitude and all of those things, of course. With that stated, like, someone else's happiness is not yours to carry. Okay, and I feel like we're gonna go even deeper in that in the extended. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna leave some of that for the extended because this goes deep. Okay, but I just for the general reading and for this purpose, like I just think there's that reinforcement of like your own happiness is so important. It's just so important. Like that should be your primary focus, okay? And so I think if you can like really make that your guiding star, I'm almost like seeing the star card right now in my mind's eye. If you can make that your guiding light, like your own happiness, your own emotional needs, your own fulfillment, then you're on the right path, okay? Ultimately, anyone else's is just not your own. It's not yours to carry. It's not yours to hold. It's not yours to be bound to in any way, okay? And so I just really needed to say that, and that's why the Lovers is coming out in reverse. Okay, so we have that. Give me a second. There's more that wants to come through here. Okay, this is a very specific message for, again, a very small portion of you. For those of you who may be in a connection and you maybe have more than one partner, I think there's an energy here around like metamors, and maybe there being, again, I mentioned it earlier, but there being some tension between that, or maybe you're stepping into a situation and there's some tension. I think the sort of like recommendation here is to really look at within yourself what's causing that tension, like maybe what this situation reminds you of from childhood, or reminds you of from maybe like earlier years or other relationships you've been in. And that could be something you bring to your own healing journey, whether that's, you know, with a healer or however you approach your own healing, to really look at it more specifically. There's something here around like an illusion coming through. I'm seeing these swords coming through almost as like an illusion now, like with clouds. I don't know, clouds are coming through, but there's like a mist here. And so I think there's some sort of illusion that you're not really seeing your partner and or their metamor like very clearly, and that they're not that person maybe that they're reminding you of. Okay, that's really specific, but just something I wanted to point out there. Okay, give me another second here. Okay, so there is a message coming through for some of the LGBTQ community, maybe those who are not fully aware of their queerness yet, but I think this is a message here around attraction to others, or, you know, with outside of the heteronormative like ways of operating, outside of sort of like very traditional like straight connection. I think there's some sort of like budding here, chemistry, alchemy, understanding. Feminism is queer, like queerness is a part of feminism. So there's something here around like the reason your connections haven't worked in the past is because you weren't connecting with the right type of person. Okay, and my timer literally just went off, so that, I don't think you can hear it because I turned off the sound for this one, but yes, that is correct. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna leave that at that. We may even get a little bit more on that in the extended, okay? But I'm gonna leave that there. Okay, there is, let's see, is there one other message here, Spirit? Yes, there's another message here for those of you who maybe aren't, that maybe this doesn't relate to a connection external to you, but related to your own inward journey and connecting with different parts of yourself. Like I'm seeing these as like two different parts of you, like, and this as well, right, with the hands. And so there's something coming through here around a couple of things. Like, how do we create balance and synergy and connection between maybe different sides of you who maybe want different things in a way that finds a happy middle? Like the energy that's coming through really strongly is around, because this card represents Gemini and Gemini energy, and so that's actually what's what Spirit is trying to communicate about is like the essence of Gemini energy is the holding of polarity. I think in a lot of ways Gemini gets a bad rap for just a lot of reasons, but one being what happens is Gemini is the archetype that holds opposing polarities. And a lot of Gemini people who have those placements like have an expression of that and have a particular task in this life to hold different polarities and to find balance and to find sort of the third element that allows them to hold those polarities well. Okay. And so that I'm seeing the 3 here. Okay. And so I think there's an energy here of like, how do we find that balance point between maybe different parts of you that want different things, or that are feeling like there's a tension or a push and pull between, like I'm getting the almost like push and pull of the hands together and the hands apart. Like there's kind of this energy happening, okay, between these two in the cards. And so how do we find that third option that allows us to integrate both in a very healthy way, that you then kind of present and represent yourself very much so in a very stable way. I don't know, that's the word that's coming through, like very stable way, okay? Because right now this may feel sort of like back and forth, and this is where Gemini unfortunately gets the kind of, I don't know, they get a bad rap on being like two-faced, and that's actually not what's happening. Like it's just Gemini trying to, their life journey is trying to figure out how to like create the bridge between these parts and create the third option that allows them to be stable between polarity. I mean, Gemini is a very complex sign. And so, yeah, I think there's some energy here around how to do that within yourself and how to express yourself in a way that honors all of these sides of you. Like we are multidimensional beings, right? And so I absolutely love that message. I think there's a lot of good energy here around that, and Spirit wanting you to continue on this journey, because it's the journey you're on, is figuring this out. So some of you may actually have Gemini placements like that. That could be it. For some of you, maybe the person you're connected with is a Gemini, or again, this doesn't have to be, it's just for some of you. So anyway, I just needed to talk about the Gemini archetype because we have all of we have all the astrological signs in us. Each and every one of us do. So it ultimately doesn't matter if that's like one of your main placements or not, but it's energy we all have to contend with. But I think there is a real call out here and an appreciation for what you've been through, trying to like chemistry, alchemy, like kind of create a stable bond between these different parts of yourself who may want different things. Okay? I think Spirit is trying to say there is a third option that is stable and can support both and create harmony. Okay? Okay. Whew, that was a lot. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And for some of you, this looks like the third option will look like how you channel your creativity. I'm catching the feminism part of this card right now. So for some of you, like this may be different parts of yourself. Like maybe there's a part of yourself that's more like, I want to say Saturnian in nature, like, you know, is maybe more like rule bound, is a little more inflexible, is maybe really likes the sort of like organization bit. And then maybe there's another part of you that's really flowy and creative and just like very like almost like Neptunian in nature and just wanting to kind of flow and create and imagine. And so I think maybe Spirit is trying to say here, there's a way to bridge both of those parts if that resonates with you, okay? There's a way to bridge both where you can be very practical about the ways your creativity channels and like have that anchor in the 3D material earthly realm, okay? Like you can still be creative and still have that experience in that journey. It's just a matter of, again, with the hands out of this person right now, like bridging those two together. There is a path that you can walk, or some of you are walking, that does both. Okay. Spirit, do we want one more card? Okay, so we want one more card. Yeah, and it's so interesting because it feels like it feels like we're sort of like unraveling in this reading. Like there's something we're trying to like unravel, almost like I'm seeing the snake almost as rope now. Like us trying to like untie the knot and unravel it and kind of that process. There's something around it. And I'm almost seeing the snake here as like the vines that were on the like, I don't know what version of the King Arthur story this is, but like there were vines on the stone before you could like, before you could pull out the sword. And so I feel like that's kind of the process we're going through, and this like general is trying to unravel a bit of this. At least that's what the energy is coming through as. Okay, Spirit, do you have one last card? Okay, we have one last card that wants to come through here in the general. Okay. Yeah, and we have it's the same thing again. And now we have the Five of Swords. Okay, yeah, and like this is so fascinating to me. Again, we're catching the same energy here. It's almost flanking the two sides of this like Lover's card. Is this one in reverse, Spirit? No, this one's upright. So, again, and I'm just catching the polarities again. So this may be representative of like you and someone else just aren't on the same page, or you may have two different parts of yourself that are just, again, don't have the same approach to things, and we're really trying to figure out how to like marry them and how to create synergy and balance. For some of you, this is a process of unwinding, creating distance and space with kind of this card in the middle here. So for some of you, that's what this is. This is the Five of Swords. So this it's so interesting. We have the Lovers, which I think these all add up, right? If I'm reading this correctly, this is a 4, this is a 5, this is a 6. Wow. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of like, yes, chemistry. There's a lot of spiritual alchemy happening here. So fascinating stuff here. But let's go into this card just a little bit more in depth. Perfect. And my timer just went off, so that just tells me yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So the first thing that came through when I pulled this card is I'm noticing the snake wound around the sword here, and the way swords typically represent like communication in and thinking and mental action within tarot. For some reason, okay, I have to say it because it's coming through for just some of you, like this feels like there's some form of illusion, some form of like something that's not quite as truthful. So it may be that some of what's happening in this connection is a lack of clarity and a lack of truth and a lack of honesty. I'm just going to say it. So yeah, I think in that way it makes sense why boundaries can be helpful, why creating a little bit of distance may be helpful. The other thing that's coming through here, I'm seeing the snake here and the way it's bound around your hand here too. For, again, a few of you that are in connection and this part of the reading resonates with, because this won't be for all of you, okay? But there's something around like maybe some of the challenges that this person is going through has somehow become yours as well. Like you're shouldering and burdening, like it's you're taking on the burden of, rather. And I think Spirit's trying to say, like, any connection that you're in that aligns with you won't have you take on things that aren't yours to carry. Okay? And if that for someone else looks like maybe past like wounding, or I'm looking at the swords now, the past like wounding and past like traumas they've been through, like those ultimately aren't yours to carry either. Like we can have empathy for others around what they've been through, and also acknowledge and acknowledge and accept, I said represent there, but accept that that's their journey and that's their path to follow and that's theirs to hold. I'm gonna write down that word represent because there's something coming through around represent. Okay. I think this connection is trying to like show you and represent in a kind of very visual and physical and emotional way of like what it feels like to take on something that's not yours to carry. And I think there's a message here from Spirit of like, you can set that down, okay? And I'm gonna flip this upright right now because I think we need this anchor point to show like any connection that you're in that is healthy and loving, like won't ask you to do that. They won't ask you to carry things that aren't yours to carry, okay? And if that for them looks like, you know, they need to go embark on their healing journey and engage with some healing forms, like that's ultimately what they need to do. Like that's not yours. You don't have to be bound to that. Okay? Whew. That's that's a big message. And I think I'm seeing the feminism card come through here, but I think there's this real misunderstanding when it comes to connections, especially as they're like portrayed through the patriarchy, is that like when you're bound to someone, you're bound to all their stuff, right? Or when you're connected with someone, like you're supposed to take that on. You have to carry that. And specifically, I need to say this, for some of you who are femmes or who like identify as women or femmes, like this is not yours to carry. Just quite simply, it's just not yours to carry, and it's not fair to you, and it's not something that like in a healthy relationship any partner would ask of you, or any connection. And this doesn't have to be romantic. Like I said, apply this to the various levels here, but even if it's family as an example, like that's not yours to carry either. Like we each have our own, I'm just moving something on to the side here, but we each have our own sort of, you know, challenges that we're going to go through, and ultimately those are ours to navigate. And so you know, don't allow yourself to take on something that's not yours to carry. Like this message came through specifically for whoever's watching this, or for probably many of you here, to say like, you know, you have your own journey and you have your own things that you'll be working through, and they'll have theirs. And so it is loving to ourselves when we allow someone to have their own destiny and have their own path. Like that is almost one of the best ways you can show love, is to say like, I believe and trust in myself, but I trust in you to be able to navigate any challenges that come up for you, and that you will be able to handle them. Okay, and that's where we get into like mature relating, is we don't try to take on something that's not ours to hold. And so I'm really gonna go deeper into this. The Spirit has a lot more to say on this topic. I'm just like barely keeping a lid on how much Spirit wants to say here, but I'm gonna go into that even further in the extended, because there's definitely some deeper layers going on here. some like core wounding in this aspect that we're going to get into. So we're going to get under the hood in the extended. But for those of you who don't carry on to the extended, hopefully you do, but for those of you who don't, like, this is just a message to say, yeah, just focus on yourself, focus on your happiness, focus on like what makes you feel fulfilled and whole, and trust that anyone else outside of you will be able to manage their own. Okay? And that's how we get to healthy relating. That's how we really step into this energy of like this, that is a feminist, like very feminist, like perspective of seeing people as their full selves and seeing them as adults. Okay? All right. So that was a really big message. I thank you so much for joining me in this general. I will have the link to the extended in the description box below, but thank you all for joining me today, and I'll see you at the next reading. Thanks so much. Bye.